for this last masterclass of the day. My name is Agnes, and we have basically saved the best masterclass till the end. So this masterclass is different to the rest of what we've been having during the day because we're going to be talking about wine. And so we're basically going to be hearing from two sommeliers. I hope I said that right. I'm not sure I did. But two sommeliers who are called Femi, Oyediran, and Miles White. And they have come all the way from Charleston in South Carolina, where they own their own wine bar and wine shop called Graft. So they're going to be talking to us today. As you can see, the topic is wines, basically a wine tour and an exploration of great wines from around the globe. So ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome to the stage, Miles and Femi. Thank you. Louder. Come on, give them a good Lagos welcome. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome.
Hey. Wow, amazing. So glad to be here.
Yes, this is wild. It's awesome.
It's good to be home. Yeah.
It's great to have you. Yeah, so Femi, obviously I assume you're originally from Nigeria.
Course.
So
yes, indeed.
How long has it been since you were here?
It's been a long time actually. I haven't been back to Nigeria in about 15 years, so this is
a
really
welcome
rewarding.
home.
Yeah,
Welcome him home, everybody. Wonderful. Yeah. And Miles?
This is my first time, but Femi and I have known each other for 11 years now.
Yeah.
One of my best friends for 11 years, and he would always talk about it and always talk about it and always talk about it. And I met more of his family, and
now you're here. Awesome.
Yes. But it's you can't describe something until you get here, and so far it's an incredible country. So beautiful people, wonderful food, everyone's been super.
And so
nice.
he loves Nigerian food, so that's the one thing that we can also.
We were with last night, so late night.
Yeah.
That's good. Awesome. So tell us what you're going to be talking to us today
Indeed. So
about.
We're going to obviously talk about wine. So I don't know what everyone's experience with. Everyone, how many of you would say you love to drink wine? Is it part of your? Of course.
Me.
It tastes good. It makes you feel good, right? So that's something. How many of you would say maybe you're beginners when it comes to your understanding of wine? Okay, can raise your hand.
That's
good.
How many of you think maybe you have an intermediate knowledge when it comes to wine? Okay. How many of you think maybe you're an expert when it comes to wine? You're the best. Your friends know you. They call you for advice.
Okay. Right there? Okay.
Okay, cool.
I like it. Okay.
We're going to hire you.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so wine has a lot of levels to it, but it should all be very simple. Wine should just be delicious, and that's the goal of what we try to do at our store and at our bar in South Carolina. We just try to give people things that are tasty. You shouldn't have to work too hard to find delicious wine, just like you shouldn't have to work too hard to find really great food. Wine is very similar, and what we want to try to do with this class is we want to try to break down wine as much as possible, so you can really kind of just understand the basics of what you need to know when you're, number one, buying wine, you're tasting wine, or you're talking about wine.
Yeah, I think kind of with that, again, I haven't spent as much time as I would like to in Nigeria, but in America, I can go to a bar, I can order a beer, they'll give me my beer, I'll be happy with it. I can order a cocktail, they'll give me my cocktail, but there's always this underlying kind of wine is always seen as being really fancy and unapproachable, and it kind of is, and it was for a long time. And what Femi and I really wanted to do was kind of see if we could back away from that. And again, like he said before, like wine, it should taste good, it should make you feel good. That's why we drink it, that's why I drink it. I can put a suit on and I can pour wine at a really fancy dinner, but what I really like to do is listen to music, drink wine, hang out with my friends, and basically that's what we tried to do at our bar.
Indeed.
And we've had a great deal of success in just by being able to create a place that people want to come drink in.
So a little bit about our background. Miles and I we're both sommeliers, and I know that's sometimes a very weird word for a lot of people to try to say, but in short conversation often we just say we're somms. But sommeliers we're wine stewards, we're wine professionals. We help people find the wines that they want to taste or drink. And for us, we often tell people, you don't really need to know a lot about wine. Your sommelier's job is to help you easily find what you're looking for. And so a little bit about our backgrounds. I am an advanced sommelier to the Court of Master Sommeliers. I'm one of the few in the U.S. that have achieved that status. Miles is also a sommelier, but he's also spent a considerable amount of time in winemaking. He worked at one of the most sought-out wineries in America, in Oregon. Very difficult job to acquire. He worked there for about 3 vintages. We're going to talk about how wine is made, and Miles is going to lend a lot of expertise to that practice because it's something that he's really done.
But kind of going back to that too, I think wine, it's a food product, right? It comes from grapes, turns into wine, and just like any food product, you have McDonald's if you want a hamburger, or you have I forget the cart outside, but the hamburger out there was phenomenal, and it was like, they're both hamburgers, but they're very different, right? So wine is the exact same, and you can get wine in America like you can get wine at the gas station, or you can get wine at our shop. And our job is to basically be like, what do you like? What can I get for you? And I think that we do a pretty good job of that, but I think we both have a ton of experience with it, so it's been great.
All right, so that's a great introduction. So what we really want to get to, because I know some of you want to taste wine. You're like, we keep hearing about this wine. When are we going to actually taste some? You're going to taste some in just a moment, or at least some of you. So what is wine? How did we arrive at that? Miles, hit us with the history.
Yeah, wine is... a lot of things with wine was an accident, right? Like you pick these grapes, you eat the grapes. Was it like Georgia, Slovenia, kind of like above the Adriatic, 6,000 years ago? They found evidence of people making wine, but what a lot of people believe to happen is somebody had some grapes, they let them sit for too long, the grapes fermented, someone drank the juice and said, hey, I feel pretty good, this is nice. It's all from there. Just before I left my house in Charleston, my girlfriend got really mad at me because there was a bag of carrots that we had had for maybe a month. Don't judge me. But the bag was filling up with air because the carrots just started fermenting, and it was an accident. I'd forgotten about it. And then, of course, people started using it ceremoniously, and beer and wine and spirits, they were all drank because they were safer than the water. And then wine, the Romans probably had the biggest impact on the wine we know today, because you can only grow wine in very specific places, right? You can't grow it where we're from. You can't really grow it.
Wine likes marginal places. You really need to, when you think about the winemaking and grape growing, grapes really kind of grow where nothing else will grow. If you can't grow other crops, try to plant some vines. So grapes like very poor soils. They like really marginal climates. Really the worst, situation that you can imagine for growing, apples, vegetables, anything like that. Anytime you see anything, nothing will grow here. Plant vines.
Yeah, and you'll get great vines. It seems kind of cruel because when you plant a vine, you really want to stress the vine as much as you can. So you want the vine to be doing poorly, and if you think about it, kind of biologically, the plant wants a bird to come eat the grape, pop the seed out somewhere, more vines pop up from there, and then so basically the vine will put all of its energy into making the best tasting cluster of grapes that it can make. So the thing that we deal with all the time is the harsher the climate, the worse the soil, the worse the area to grow what normally would be successful crops, usually the better the wine. So you can only grow it in very specific places. It's not like beer, it's not like liquor, you can't make it anywhere. I can make beer in my backyard, I cannot make wine in South Carolina. Yeah. It's way too hot. It's like Nigeria in the summer.
Can I ask a quick question? So you spoke about the different climates that wine, the grapes for wine grow well. So are there any particular, so we know that wines are from different regions, so are there any particular regions that you guys prefer your wines from? So whether it's red or white, etc.
Great wine can be made anywhere. Great wine is often, all things considered, when things are consistent, great wine is made by great winemakers, great farmers. Winemaking is a production of excellent farming. So when you want to talk about wines that are well made, you really need to look at the way the wines were produced, the way the wines were farmed. And often when you kind of follow that, you follow that path in terms of understanding the way the farming happened, the way that the wines are made at the winery, you find you can often predict who's going to make great wine. So the question often is, who makes the greatest wine? And there's really, honestly, no great answer, because I've spent my entire career trying to solve that riddle. And the actual answer is that if you find people that are passionate, that work hard, and understand the science, they can make fantastic wine. And that's really what we do. We find those wines, and then we get them to you in your hands.
I worked for the winery I worked for in Oregon. We would take a cluster of grapes. You'd pick every grape off the cluster, and you look at it. And if it wasn't perfect, it was thrown away. If it was perfect, it went in the batch, made the wine. The wine was wildly expensive. I could never afford it. It was fun to make. And then I worked at a winery in Australia. The tanks were as tall as this room, 100,000 liter tanks of wine. Machines would go through the harvest, destroying the vineyards, getting all the grapes. 110 fermenters would come in, and you'd pull the thing off, and there would be the first time I got there, I was so surprised because there were birds and mice, and these things had been ripped from the vineyard. And my winemaker at the time was like, "We don't have time. Put it in the crusher. We're getting wine." And it was awful, and I hated it. And we made so much wine, and I was adding a bunch of sugar, adding a bunch of yeast, adding all of this stuff to the wine. And then I remembered when I was in Oregon, we were literally picking every grape. So again, kind of circling back to wine being a food product, you have a lot of producers that genuinely make an effort to make a clean, thoughtful product, and then you have a lot of people that just want to move wine, which is fine, but I won't drink it.
Fair enough.
Because I care. I care about what I put in my body, and I care about what I drink, and I care about the people that make the wines, and it's not fun seeing like a field mouse go into the crusher to see it. It's disgusting, but it's true. Like, it just happens. So next time, in the States, when you go to the gas station, you get a $5 bottle of wine. I don't know what's in it. But if you come to our shop, every wine is made very thoughtfully, which is kind of cool. And the farmers and the whole production of it is such a big deal, and it's so important. And it takes a lot more work, because you can easily make clean wine that will do the exact same thing that these will do. But what do you know what's in it? It's kind of like food. The simpler, the better. The more people care about the food, the more people care about the produce, the more people care about what's actually going on in the farm, the better the wine.
Great. Can I ask another question? Sorry, before you go on. So you touched about your shop, which is called Graft, which is in Charleston. So I understand that Graft is all about community, it's all about wine, it's all about music as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you guys, you love music, you love
Yes.
wine, and you've combined the two into Graft.
Yes.
Can you explain and
Absolutely.
talk on that more so?
So,
please?
when Miles and I met, we both were working at a restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina. And fantastic restaurant, but also, when we both started working there, we were the youngest by years.
Okay, close.
And so, we actually were very kind of we were kind of considered the oddballs at the restaurant, because everyone was much older than us, so they didn't really want to spend time with us, because we were about 20 years old. Everyone else was around 30 or older. Okay. And so him and I would just hang out together, and we found out that we actually really enjoyed a lot of the same things. We enjoyed really collecting music, talking about music, and I don't think really we even really got into wine by that point, right?
No,
so
whatever was cheapest.
we made a habit of going to concerts together, and so that was really fun for us. So when we actually eventually got into wine, I think he was living in Oregon, I was still in Charleston. I started studying wine and tasting wine, and then we met up for maybe dinner when he was visiting one time, and then we both realized that we were both doing this thing together. So then whenever he would visit, we would just meet up, we'd open up bottles of wine together, and we would play music. And it was such a fun way for us to hang out. And so, other people would eventually join, and it just was a thing. If you hung out at my house or his house, you knew we were going to open up a lot of wine, and the wine was going to be delicious. And we were going to play a lot of amazing music. So when we opened up our place, we said what we need to do is we need to focus on what we do best. And what people have really enjoyed from us is this atmosphere where we play music we love, we share music we love, and then we also share wine that we love too. And the combination to me is unparalleled.
Yeah,
none of our friends liked wine. They would rather go drink a beer, have a shot, whatever. Nobody was into wine. Nobody cared. And Femi and I were like, well, if we're going to open this place, I still want to hang out with my friends, even though we're working every day of the week. So we were like, how can we get our friends to hang out here and also drink wine? And that was the hard part. Absolutely. And then we realized that oftentimes people take wine way too seriously. Again, like going back to what we said, it should taste good, it should make you feel good. Don't think about it too much. How can we build a living room that our friends want to hang out at, where we can listen to good music, drink wine, eat good food? And then it kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
And we've been very lucky. But
yeah, I love that. Just to say, I love the fact how you've combined both your passions into what it is that you do today.
Yes.
I feel like that's something that many people would love to do with their lives as well. Just going back to the music part. So is it a case of there's certain types of wines that you would drink while listening to certain types of music? Or is it not that deep?
My personal philosophy is that the wine you like to drink is the right wine to drink anytime. So you can talk about pairings with music. I've never really understood that, because for me it doesn't. The two don't really collide. Like you can pair wine with food, and that makes sense because you can talk about acid, you can talk about the structure of the wine, the fruit of the wine, how it plays well with flavors. But for me, I just like to play whatever I like, and I like to drink whatever I like. So I never try to think too much about that. But if anyone has a better answer, I'd love to hear it. But the truth is really just drink what you want, drink what you like, enjoy it. There's no rule to it. Don't let anyone try to tell you what is great or what is good. Ultimately, you decide. We are just here to help. So
Femi, who's basically part of because a lot of his family's not in Charleston, and they're spread across the U.S. and here, and he's been kind of adopted by my family. And my dad is a huge audiophile and loves music more than anything else he does in his life. And I remember the first time that we all sat down and listened to Fela Kuti together, and I remember that night being as like one of the most like transformative. We listened to that probably once a week, all night. But the music, whether it's from the States, from Africa, from Europe, from wherever, like
his dad loves West African music, for sure.
And he's from Spartanburg, South Carolina,
and it's obviously a lot about a big influence for our music program. So that's always great too. But okay, so we've got a few wines today also that I'd love to kind of talk about. So we're going to start.
I'm sure the guys can't wait to get
started. Yeah, we've got two whites, we've got
wine.
two reds. Okay, so I think a lot of times people often, when we talk about wine, I think, people often ask what makes a great wine. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to break down, what makes a good wine, what makes a bad wine, what makes, how do you describe the wines that you kind of taste? And so we'll get into that. Okay.
Sorry, can I ask at this point if anyone has any questions?
Yeah, please.
It might be a good point.
And we want this to be open, so if anyone has any questions.
There's a hand right up at the back.
Please.
Oh, there's a few hands already. Okay, who has the microphone,
Absolutely.
please? Is somebody going round? Okay, cool. Could you go to the lady just there in the grey? Oh, sorry, I didn't see. I'll come to you next.
I wish we could open the window and listen to the music outside.
See. What was that?
I just want to drink wine and listen to the music outside.
We'll get there. Okay, question? Can you stand up so we can see you, please? Thank you.
Hey.
Hi.
So I don't know if it's true or it's a myth that you're not supposed to put red wine in the fridge.
That's a great question. So, and that's something we're going to talk about is how you serve wine. Actually, Miles and I love to drink all wine slightly refrigerated. And I know that's kind of a lot of time for a lot of people, it's not something they expect to hear. But I think every wine you drink really kind of should have some degree of chill. So most red wines I put in the fridge for about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what it is. But all white wines I chill, all champagne, sparkling wines I chill. Wines just often taste better when there's a little bit of refrigeration. So even if you just need to put something on ice for a little bit, ice in a cold bath. So oftentimes what we'll do is we'll get a bucket of water. We'll just put in some ice, and then we'll put the bottle in the cold bath. And that's really one of the best ways to kind of get a wine to temperature. But yeah, drinking wines at room temperature is not really conducive to really enjoying the wine. You don't really get the great fruit quality that you're well deserving of. So.
It's also hot out, right? Like it's hot where I'm from. It's very hot.
Yeah,
I want it cold.
Yeah.
But if you like it cold, drink it cold. And
Once you get into the habit of drinking wines at a certain temperature, particularly wines that are maybe slightly lower in temperature, it's very hard to go back. In fact, actually for me, when I go to a restaurant in the States and they give me wine that's maybe room temperature or a little warmer, I'm incredibly offended. So, you want... Yeah.
One of my favorite wine memories is I was in Florida and it was July 4th and a bunch of fireworks and I was on a rooftop and I brought this really special bottle of wine and it was warm and I drank it out of a solo cup with ice in it. And don't tell my Somm friends that, but that's how I wanted it. I wanted it cold and I didn't care. And I remember that moment until the day I die. And I will forget about a lot of other wine experiences I had, but I wanted it cold, and I wanted it however I had it. So if you like your wine cold, drink it cold. If you like it room temp, drink it room temp. I like my wine cold.
Here's a question. Who here likes really dry wines? And when I say dry, when we're talking about with dry wines, we're saying they're not sweet. And so less sugar.
Sweet, dry.
Oftentimes people get really confused about the way we describe wines. What is a full-bodied wine? What is a light wine? What is a dry wine? What is a sweet wine, right? So when we talk about a sweet wine, we're talking about something that has a lot of sugar still in the wine, or maybe it might even be added later, right? So a sweet wine is something that maybe when you think about like Fanta, that's very sweet. So when we talk about sweet wines, we're talking about things that have that sweetness. When we talk about dry wines, we're saying wines that are very dry. And for us, that's often where we go because dry wines are very good when you're pairing with food, and we're sommeliers. So oftentimes our job is to pair wine with food.
But I was thinking about last night when we had the suya, and I said,
yes.
He said, "How spicy do you want?" And I said, "I want you to ruin my day." I said,
So oftentimes with very spicy food, especially like when you have really spicy suya. Miles wanted to have some suya last night, and then he said he wants a Yoruba spicy. So
and in my head, I wanted some sweet wine, and I can't think of a better pairing. But in reality, I had orange Fanta, and that might be one of the best things I've ever had, with really spicy suya and the steamed red onions. Is like it's one of the best things I've eaten in like.
That's
the
a
past
case
2
where
years.
the sweetness is able to downplay the spiciness. And so oftentimes when we talk about wine pairings, we're looking for things to play off of one another. So when you have spicy food, you often want sweetness, and when you have highly acidic food, like when you're talking like with Mexican food, we talk about ceviches, things that are with lots of acid. You want high acid wines that can compare with it. And there are lots of rules when it comes to pairings. But we're going to kind of we're going to get into a few of them today with some of the wines that we have here. So we have 2 whites, we have 2 reds. The first white is a Sauvignon Blanc from Italy, the white wine from Italy. And so we're going to taste this here. And what I'd love to do, Miles and I have tasted a million wines every day, so that's not going to be great for everyone. But we'd love to get someone here who would love to
said
taste
that
some
they
wine
thought they
with
were an
us.
expert?
Who would like to taste
I'm sure someone here is planning for a drink. So
Yeah.
who would like a
Just the
taste?
one- just one
We've got
Maybe just one.
Okay, just one person to
We've got
start
3,
with.
4
can you
glasses.
choose?
And you're going to need to talk. Too,
Oh, we can
so-
do one person for
If you're okay with that.
one person for each wine.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but one person for now.
Can
Okay.
you choose? Because I don't want anybody to.
we have to choose.
Yeah, can you choose?
Well,
I don't want it to be on
you
me.
seem like you're ready to go, so I'm
Okay, come
curious.
on,
Let's go.
And also, I know we still have more questions. I have noted you guys, so we will come to you just once we do.
We will have more.
Do you want to come around?
You can come around. How are you?
What's your
How
name,
are you?
sir?
Miles.
Isaac.
Isaac, nice to meet
nice
you.
to
Glad
meet
to
you,
have you
Isaac.
here.
So Femi is more familiar with this project than I am.
So which wine is this that we're...
So this is, we're going to get to that in just a
Okay,
moment.
sorry.
Isaac, this is for you. And maybe we'll hold off on this.
This looks
sure.
nice.
Yeah. Miles and I are going to share glasses today.
Do
Not
I
the
get
first
one?
time.
Oh, I'm
Not the
joking.
first time.
It's fine.
You
No,
absolutely.
really,
No,
it's
you're going to taste all the wines.
Thanks.
Okay. So what we have here, this is a Savion Blanc. Has everyone here had a Sauvignon Blanc before? Yes. It's often used, it's one of the most planted,
Popular white wines of all
grape
time.
varieties on the planet. But what's unique about Sauvignon Blanc is that it makes really crisp, lean white wines. And what that means for us as sommeliers is that you can pair Sauvignon Blanc with a lot of light food. So when we talk about salads, we talk about a lot of seafood, light seafood preparations, you can use Sauvignon Blanc. So it comes in handy oftentimes. And also it's just very refreshing. So when we talk about wines that we like to drink in hot weather climates, Sauvignon Blanc is really great. So this one, we chose this one actually. This is produced in Italy, northern Italy. We like this one in particular because this is a project, we all know Mary J. Blige in the US. Yeah, Mary J. Blige. This is actually her wine. And often we don't, celebrate the wines of celebrities because, him and I try to focus on very good quality wines that are made by people that have the intent of farming well and producing fantastic wine. But Mary J. Blige's Sauvignon Blanc is actually beautiful, and it's a great wine to actually to taste. So we're happy to share that with you. Oftentimes when we evaluate wines, there are a few things that we look at because we taste with our nose, we taste with our palates, and often in times with wine, we also taste with our eyes. So whenever I look at a glass of wine, the first thing I do is I look at the color of the wine. And the color can tell you a lot. So this is a masterclass on the world of wine, but for right now, it's going to be a masterclass on tasting wine. I'm going to tell you the secrets that a lot of sommeliers struggle with.
Because also this class could be a month long. We have an hour to tell you everything that we should tell you about tasting wine.
So we're going to evaluate this. So I don't know how much you can see on the screen here, but you can actually see this is a really bright, very bright and almost translucent white wine. You can't really see, you can see through it, you can't really see too much. And that tells a lot. So we already know that this Sauvignon Blanc to me is already going to be, very light as it should be in flavor. So oftentimes when we look at color, there are 4 things you can learn from the color of a wine. 1, color tells you if the wine is old. Because as the wines get older, white wines get older, they turn brown in color. It can tell you if the wine has been aged in wood, because when wines are aged in wood, they develop color also. You can think about maybe like a clear spirit when you talk about bourbon or cognac, they're brown, and they get that color from oak or wood. So when wines have been aged in wood, like when you think about like very rich Chardonnay, they develop color also. And then also sugar will impart color on wine. And lastly, skin contact. So when they let the grapes, the juice sit in contact with the skins for a long period of time, you get color. And that's actually how you produce red wine. It's like taking a bag of tea and sipping it in water, and you get the color from that. So when we talk about red wines, the red wines get their color and oftentimes their flavor from the skins. In the case of white wines, they don't. So this wine is pretty translucent, so I already kind of know there's not going to be too much wood here, just from what I can see. Probably not at all. And then also, we know for a fact the wine is probably fresh and young, and there's probably no skin contact. Anyways, these are the ways that a sommelier evaluates a wine when they're looking at it. The other thing we can do is smell, and this is where Isaac is going to come in handy. So when we, often as sommeliers, we smell a wine, we think about flavor profiles that we can associate with the wine itself. So no, we're not trying to say a winemaker he put oranges, he put apples. That's not what we're saying. We're trying to create tabs or memorable points of the wine that we can associate with things that are familiar. So in the case of like a white wine, I might say this wine reminds me of green apples. This wine reminds me of orange or lemon or anything like that. So why don't you smell the wine, and maybe we'll think about maybe some fruits that it reminds you of, and it could be papaya, it could be melon, anything like that.
Yeah, it's not
This
harsh.
is a test.
Yeah, it's not harsh.
Yeah.
But sometimes even when you take a sip too, more flavors will
Yeah,
come out. So.
I love the smell.
Yes.
It reminds me of citrus.
Citrus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
citrus.
A lot of
exactly.
citrus.
Lots of citrus. And that's
Green,
it really.
fresh.
That's fantastic. Isaac is already a master sommelier. I can already see it. He's already passed his class. So yeah, that's fantastic that he said that, because Sauvignon Blanc is actually a very citrus-driven wine. And that's why oftentimes when we talk about pairings, we use Sauvignon Blanc in place of citrus. So when we talk about a salad or anything like that, you can kind of think of a wine as an added ingredient when you want to do a pairing. So when you have, for instance, fresh tuna, fresh cooked white fish, anything like that, before it's been smoked, you can really just think of, you want to just add lemon, you can say, okay, I want to pair a Sauvignon Blanc with this because it's going to add that citrus lemon character to it. So that's really great. That's one of the great. If you can get there, you've already really started to understand the way we use wine as a pairing system. So congratulations. That's really fantastic.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Isaac.
You can enjoy that glass.
Enjoy the wine.
For sure.
Thank you.
Terrific. So Sauvignon Blanc is often, a lot of citrus quality, and you'll get other things. We'll talk about melon, we'll talk about apples. Throw it back. That's the way to go.
Isaac, take it with you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Trust me, if we had more glasses, we would
That's
get
what
you
we wanted. I
all,
wanted
get you all drunk.
300 glasses, and they wouldn't have stood.
Okay.
Isaac
that's
will
great.
share.
Isaac's a winner.
Nice one.
Okay.
And
So-
sorry, you mentioned that Sauvignon Blanc is good for hot environments, right?
I like
think
it
you
because
mentioned
it's
that. Okay.
refreshing,
Yeah.
right? It's
So
ice
refreshing.
cold.
It's good to
Like
drink
Ice
here.
cold. Get
Ice
it cold. It just, it's light, so it
Refreshes.
mirrors kind of water in a way when you want something that's refreshing.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be oftentimes it won't be too loud in flavor, so it's not too busy. Because
Okay.
when you're very hot, you don't always just want something that's too busy. You want something you can drink easily.
Yeah.
And often Sauvignon Blanc, especially when it kind of comes from a place in Italy where you get this cool climate, when
Yeah.
you get ripeness also.
Okay.
This comes from northeastern Italy in Friuli. Which is kind of border Slovenia, and
But
they
it's
have
like, it's in the mountains. It's like the
Yeah.
Alps, which are these crazy Dolomites, which are the crazy granite, huge mountains, and it's cold. And you think about these refreshing, like acidic qualities. And
Exactly.
Where we live, we eat a lot of oysters and crab and seafood. And when we don't know exactly what to pick, Sauvignon Blanc always is like, I can't think about it. I know this will work. Let's do it.
Okay.
But you can grow Sauvignon Blanc all over the world. You see it from America. You see it from France. You see it from New Zealand. You see it from South Africa. It's grown everywhere. And that's kind of the cool thing about it, because everywhere it comes from, it tastes a little bit different.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
it's a good drink to drink here when you guys are out. It's good for the
absolutely. So that's Sauvignon Blanc, and there's a million more things we could say about Sauvignon Blanc,
Yeah,
but for the
yeah.
sake of time, we're just going to focus on that.
Do you like it?
Do you know what? I haven't even tried it yet.
Oh, you should
Sorry,
try it
I was
first.
focused on my
You
work.
You need
Can
to
we-
try the product.
I will.
Yeah.
I want to get another question though, 'cause I
Yes.
feel like the guys really want to ask more questions. So,
Please, yeah. Whenever
okay,
questions.
that lady at the back, yeah, with her hands
Please.
up. Who has a microphone, please? Microphone. Hello. Guys, please.
Oh, he's got it.
We
Yeah,
need
yeah.
time.
He's
okay.
working on it. Yeah.
Thank you. This lady just yeah.
Please,
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Lucia.
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 Yeah.
My question is, how do you hold a wine glass properly?
Very good
question.
question, because I was
Okay.
just doing it completely wrong.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, that's a great question also. So often, if you're holding a wine glass, you want to hold it by the stem. Okay, so that's very important. So I see often people will hold the wine glass here,
Yeah,
and I'm going to
that's
tell you why you don't do that. Okay, so you don't want to actually, when you actually hold the wine, you're actually changing the temperature of the wine with your body temperature. So the idea is that number one, when you hold the glass, you can already see I've fogged this glass up. I've got in my handprints all over it. You don't want that. It doesn't look good. So you want to keep your fingers on the stem. It won't affect the temperature. You won't touch the bowl of the glass, and that really is the best way to enjoy. So oftentimes we see people holding like this. It's not the greatest way. I don't want to say it's the wrong way, because the wine world has done so much to make people feel uncomfortable already.
Yeah.
So our goal is to make people feel comfortable. So however you want to hold it is the way you hold it. But if you want to kind of do it the correct way, please hold it by the stem.
As long as the wine gets in your mouth, you're doing a good job.
Yes. And then once you hold it by the stem, you can swirl it around,
swirl it
as you
around,
want,
look
get
fancy.
the air in there, open the wine
But
up.
also,
the
my
wine is
white,
going to breathe.
my white wine's cold. I want it to stay cold. If I hold it like this, it won't be cold after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
stemless glasses are very popular too. And again, like even when I'm holding a stemless glass, because I don't want to. I want to keep it cold. I mean, that's mainly it. It's doing this doesn't really do much other than this, other than you can swirl it. But I mainly don't. I want it to stay cold. Again, like asking that type of question, which is a really good question. You'll never have that question if it's like, how should I hold my beer glass, right? Because beer isn't taken as seriously,
Yeah.
even though it's, in the grand scheme of things, almost the exact same thing. It's a fermented beverage. It's supposed to taste good. It's supposed to make you feel good. Again, as long as it gets in your mouth, you're doing a good job.
So good.
If you want to hold it like we hold it, this is great. You can swirl it around. You're not changing the temperature of it. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. Should we crack open another bottle?
Oh, we should definitely crack open another bottle. So next up, we have another white wine. This is from what they kind of call one of the greatest terroirs on the planet for growing white grapes. And Miles, I just said the word terroir. What does that mean?
Terroir is impossible to explain in even an hour. It's everything that goes into the wine. It's the climate, it's the soil, it's the person who makes the wine, it's whatever is living in the air that affects the wine. You know, because there's hundreds of thousands of things floating around that will affect the way a wine tastes if you let it. There's ways to stop it, but terroir is everything that will change how a wine tastes. So Sauvignon Blanc in Burgundy, it's one of the most sought after, notoriously expensive, elusive wines of the world. But it tastes like that, and it is elusive because of the terroir. Terroir is everything that contributes to what makes a wine unique. I can maybe try to plant Chardonnay in South Carolina. It will not taste like Chardonnay from Sauvignon Blanc, and that has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with terroir. Terroir is basically, the French translation is...
Terroir is a French term that really just kind of talks about the place. So when we talk about terroir, you don't really need to use that term. What they're trying to actually insinuate is they're talking about the place where the grapes grow. They're talking about a combination of the soil, and they're talking about the climate and how that influences the wine that's going to be produced. So the terroir is a very fancy term to just saying a combination of things that produce a certain type of result. And in this case, in Burgundy, in France, they have a very unique terroir that's built on a couple things. One, it's made at one of the most northern edges for grapes to become ripe. And then two, they have this unique bed of limestone, which produces white wines of particular tension. So this is really the homeland for Chardonnay. And you can make some of the best white wine, particularly Chardonnay, in Sauvignon Blanc, or even just in Burgundy in general. This is Northeastern France. For a lot of us, we don't have a map today, but Northeastern France. And the white wines here are generally, as a golden rule, very delicious. They change depending on who makes it or wherever it comes from. And so oftentimes you talk to sommeliers, they love to drink white Burgundy. And when they say white Burgundy, they really are just talking about Chardonnay from this area in France. So we just wanted to bring one in here because one, we like to drink it, and two, because it's a fun wine to kind of dissect. So enough talk about that. We need to get someone to drink some Burgundy with us because Burgundy is nothing if you can't share it. So
that was
wants
first.
to drink some
That was
Burgundy?
very fast.
Yeah, that's
Who?
good.
with the fan. Yeah.
Okay, come on.
I mean, I just saw it immediately. Sorry.
Next time
this
we'll
man
get
wants
one
to
of the
drink
girls
Burgundy.
down. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, hello.
No, is that, did you pour Burgundy?
Yeah.
there?
This is Margaret.
Okay, so
Hi, what's your name?
Please.
Wale.
Wale.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, Wale, so...
Got it.
So when we describe wine, we try to break it into simple boxes. So as you saw with the last wine, we focused on citrus, right? But there are other fruits you can use to evaluate a white wine. So you can think about melon, you can think about orchard fruits, you can think about apples, you can think about pears, or you think about stone fruits, you can think about like peaches or things like that. So why don't you smell the glass and tell us maybe what you think speaks the loudest to you? Oh, you smell first, because we always smell before we taste the wine. Smelling is always half the battle. Oftentimes, for me, when I blind taste wines, I can smell it, and I can immediately tell you what it is.
It's actually weird. He can. I wish I had a secret bottle, and then Femi could smell
And Wale,
it.
if you don't get it right, you can't take the wine with you.
Okay, I didn't perceive any. Wait, hold on. What I could smell was something like vinegar.
Vinegar.
Yes.
Okay, so wine is often turned into vinegar. But if we can maybe, and this is not easy for everyone. You have to remember, like we do this for a living. We taste
All day, every
We taste all day, every day, to the point where it's really just exhausting. When we get off of work, we don't even want to smell wine or
Everyone
be around
says,
wine.
"Oh,
We
you get to
just want
drink wine all day."
beer.
It's like, no.
But wine too, which is amazing. So maybe, do you think maybe you smell anything that's similar to citrus? Similar to any fruit? Is there one maybe that you might think of? Apples, pears, pear juice, lime.
Lime.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, if we can build on that, because when you talk about the flavors of wine, it's often like building a cocktail, right? So a cocktail is a sum of ingredients. So you talk about, you could have apple. We liked in the U.S. Him and I often we like to juice in the morning. So we make fresh juice. Fresh, you might add apples into the juice. You might add lime into the juice. You might add pears. So when we describe wine, we try to say, if I had to make this as a juice, what would I add in? And why do we use these descriptors? We use these descriptors because they help keep us honest about what we're describing. They help us come back to what we like. They help us explain to people what they can expect, right? So limes are great. Can we add one more? Was that?
Tangerine.
Tangerine is fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're building a world of citrus here. You can take that with you. Wale, you win. You can take that with you.
Thank you.
So what is unique about Chardonnay? Wale talked about tangerine, and a good lesson here is that wine is often subjective. There's no rule to it, and that's the difficult thing about evaluating a wine is that what a wine tastes like to me is not necessarily going to taste the same way to Miles.
But also, if you were to ask Femi this question, you'd say, what do you taste? And if he were thinking lime, he would say, oh, lime that's been candied or dehydrated. When you think of apple, right? How many different apples are there? You have green apple and you have red apple. And you can get as detailed as you want, but it's funny to watch Femi taste. He's way better than I am. But it's like his eyes shut, and then it's just descriptors that I would never even thought of.
But the more specific you can get, the more specific of a map you can build to getting back to the wine.
And that's the whole point.
And that's my job. My job is to help you get there and to just really describe the wines to you. So I use blind tasting as a way for me to really understand the wine and remember it. Because we taste so many wines, and oftentimes they'll tell you, I can remember most of them, the wines I taste. And so whenever I see them again, I know it because I've broken down the wine into a way that I can map it in my head. Okay, so we want to kind of move on from the Chardonnay, but I do want to kind of highlight a few things with why Chardonnay is going to be different with Sauvignon from Sauvignon Blanc. Wines are very interesting, particularly white wines, because they have such unique character. And what's so interesting about these wines, these are two wines that have basically the same color. You're not on stage, so you can't really see it. So you can't see the fact that a Chardonnay and a Sauvignon Blanc are both going to be light in color, yet one is going to have a little bit more of a golden color. And the golden color that we see with the Chardonnay actually comes from the influence of wood. So the difference between the two white wines, and one of the biggest things that we'll see is the difference, is that the Chardonnay actually has been aged in wood. And if you remember what I said about wood and cognac, wood and bourbon, wood and whiskey, is that whiskey develops a brown color, and that comes directly from the wood. And in this case with the Chardonnay, when it's been aged in wood for a few months, you see a little bit of that golden color here. So that's not coming from sugar, it's not coming from skins, it's coming specifically from wood. Apart from that, Chardonnay also has a very unique flavor profile. With Chardonnay, we talk about one thing we didn't really get to with Wale is that you get a lot of orchard fruits. And you don't need to get very specific. We talk about apples, we talk about pears. That's really important to the flavor of Chardonnay. Melon, pears, and apple on top of citrus and tangerine. And those things really kind of weave together to making such a beautiful wine. And another thing we didn't really talk about is often the minerality we feel. And minerality is also a very funny subject because when we talk about minerality, it's hard for a lot of people to understand. It's very vague. But once you've really tasted a lot of wine, it becomes very apparent to you. And it's something that I love to taste in a wine. When we talk about the poor soils that make really great wine, limestone, granite, gravel. When you go visit the world, different regions of the world of wine, you really begin to hone in on the way that these conditions can completely transform what you expect from a wine. And that is part of me. That to me is maybe one of the most exceptional things that I find to make wine so exciting and interesting. And it makes the pursuit just endless for me because there's always a great wine to find. Okay, so we've tasted Chardonnay, we've tasted some Sauvignon Blanc from Italy, and now we want to get into some red wines. So who loves to drink red? Please. Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone loves to drink red wine.
Okay, who loves red wine?
Okay.
Okay, let's choose somebody.
We need to get some ladies on this.
Ladies, the lady in the green at the front. Sorry,
need your hands
guys.
up because this is really great wine. We're not going to pour you any okay, she's coming
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Let's
she's
do it.
coming up.
That's great.
I was asking this. Hello, how are you? What's your name?
Naomi.
Naomi. Very
Naomi.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Okay, Naomi,
Naomi.
this is a very serious wine we're giving you here. So what Miles poured here is this is a Italian red wine. So we're going back to Italy. Italy is one of my favorite places to visit for tasting wine, for learning about wine, but also makes some of the greatest wines on the planet. But even apart from that, the region that we're focusing on here, this is Piedmont. This is northwest Italy. This is south of the Western Alps. This is bordering Switzerland. This is a very age-old area for producing grapes. And oftentimes they call this the wine of kings, the king of wines. This is maybe one of the most famous areas for wine production in Italy. This is Barolo. Okay, so a lot of you maybe don't know about Barolo, but Barolo is often one of two people's first choice for when they want to pair wines with Italian, classic Italian foods. When we talk about pastas, we talk about
Was it the Alberti twins over
spaghettis.
here
We talk
earlier?
about
That
you want to
Barolo.
have a really great Barolo. It's maybe one of the top wines you can choose. So what we love about these wines is that they have so much to say when you smell or taste the wines. They really kind of carry all of the things you expect. So oftentimes when a sommelier talks about the way a wine feels, what we're talking about is structure. And structure can be explained by a combination of things. Acid, which you feel acid when you bite into a citrus, or tannin. And what tannin is the mouthfeel of the wine. So when you have a tea bag that you've sat in the water for too long, you feel that bitterness on the palate. You feel that tension. We call that tannin, and that is a feeling. And tannin is very important to red wines, right? Because you either don't have tannins and the wine just goes down like water, or you have tannins. And tannins, oftentimes when we pair wines, you can use tannins to counter proteins. When you talk about steak, you want tannins to help break down the proteins in the steak, and so on and so forth. You can talk about so much. So I want you to taste. We've been smelling wines a lot, but for this one, I actually want you to taste it because I want you to feel the acid on the sides. Excuse me, the acid on the sides of your tongue, and then also. Okay, well, once you get into this, I'll figure it out.
You good?
Yeah.
But yeah, tannin. It's you'll know it when you taste it, especially whoever tastes the next red wine. Nebbiolo is notorious for having some of the highest tannins you can taste in wine. To me, it feels like somebody put a paper towel in my mouth, which sounds weird, I know, but taste it and see what you think.
So while Naomi is tasting, we're actually going to call another person up just so we can get more people
Yeah.
involved to taste this wine. So let's have a lady from this side. The lady at the back, please. Sorry, because she's been... Okay, do you want to come up quickly so we can... They're going to bring more glasses, so we'll have enough glasses. You can come up as well.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're
Do
good.
you need
back?
help
Okay.
with the mic? Shall I
Great.
get
Yeah,
some?
we're good back. We're back.
Okay. So...
Hello.
pass. Thank you. Okay, sorry. And just one more. They're going to bring more glasses.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, terrific. Okay.
Okay, Naomi, what are you getting?
So, what we really want to talk about is when you first tasted the wine, what did it feel like? Did you feel anything, any strange sensation around your tongue? It wasn't sweet, because this is a very dry wine.
Very dry.
Very dry. Right. So now you feel the opposite of sweetness because you feel how dry it is. The wine's almost astringent. Does it pull at your tongue? Do you feel the tension of
Yes.
the
Take another
dryness?
sip.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you can.
Right.
You're salivating. There was a lot of acid.
I really don't know.
So take another sip quickly.
Okay.
Does it go down smooth like a cocktail, or is it difficult?
It's not your favorite.
No, no, it's not something I would
No,
want to take. No.
right? Because oftentimes, and this is what's so exceptional about pairing wine with food, is that oftentimes we say this is not necessarily a wine that you can just drink on its own. What you really want is a plate of food, and what's unique is that Nebiolo, which is the grape variety we're seeing here, Nebiolo from the region of Barolo in Piedmont, Italy. Nebiolo is also very much like Chardonnay, where we say it's a vehicle of terroir. Nebbiolo carries the character of the place where it's grown. So oftentimes with these wines, they taste often like the place they come from. So in Piedmont, you often smell truffles, roses, just like this wine. You really kind of get a lot of that red fruit, cherry, or what are some other kind of descriptions we can maybe kind of use here? But red fruits, pomegranate, cherry, along with this kind of like wet leaves, and then also roses and yeah, absolutely. No. Yeah, no.
Yeah, please ask a question. Yeah.
Okay, so, sorry. Dry wines. This
Yes.
very dry wine.
It's very dry.
The color is different from the sweet
Yes.
wine. I just
Yes.
wanted to know.
The opposite of sweet. This is a very dry wine.
But the color doesn't necessarily indicate sweetness or dry. Sometimes you'll have a sweet wine that looks like that, and sometimes you'll have a sweet wine that looks like this. It's just, that's more of a, what we always say, like, if you go out and buy wine, you don't say, I like Savion Blanc, right? People come to our shop and they say, hey, I like this wine that I had last time. What should I drink? Because I think it's kind of more about foregoing some of what you think you might know and just trusting us that have spent our entire lives doing it. So it's like, you want something sweeter than that, right? Exactly. Yeah, and we were actually talking before we came. There was one wine that we should have had in our lineup, but there's a lot of really brilliant sweet wine that's made really close to this area.
The most important thing about what we're tasting now is that you understand the idea that you want something else with this wine, because you're saying that it's not sweet. It makes you want something else. And that's the fabulous thing about a pairing, is that it needs to be paired with something else for you to understand how the wine can be used. And that is what's really unique about this wine. That's why we're using it. So, it's interesting. This style of wine is one of my favorite pairings for a dish a lot of you have had. Effa and Nebiolo is one of my favorite things. So if you ever get the opportunity to pair these two together, you get some richness of Effa, whether you're using like smoked turkey or whatever you're using. Effa Riro.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can just pair it with Nebiolo. It's one of the most beautiful things to me, the two of them together. Just the earthiness and the flavor, and then the tannins, the way it reacts with the protein is just fantastic.
His mother makes FO in Charleston, and it's very good.
Absolutely.
This together.
Awesome. Okay, because of time, we're going to quickly rush on. Naomi, thank you very much.
Okay.
We're going to very quickly ask these two ladies what they're getting, just very, very quickly.
Absolutely. So what we're going to focus on with the last wine here is we're going to focus on fruit again, because the last wine we focused on the mouthfeel. This wine here, we're going to focus on fruit. And this one actually is probably going to be a little bit more loud in terms of the flavor profile that you might seek. This wine is also from France, and this is coming from Bordeaux, which is a very famous region for red wine winemaking, maybe one of the most famous. So what are maybe some fruits that you might pick up if we were to maybe get in the most basic descriptions of what you maybe smell? It could be black cherry, it could be blackberry, it could be anything like that. Is there anything that you maybe think speaks out to you?
Okay, for me, some citrus, some blackberry.
Yes.
And it's very dry.
Yes, it's very dry.
A bit of wood.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
And you feel the wood.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you get that toasted kind of caramel kind of sanded flavor from the wood, which is fantastic. You're tasting very well. And it's also very full-bodied. And then you also get a lot of that blackberry flavor. But you also, with this wine, you notice that it's very dry. And it made you want something else. You want food, right? So your mouth begins to salivate. You want a plate. So that's really great. So this is a Bordeaux. So it's a blend that they kind of classically do in this region, where they'll mix Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Carmenere, a few other grape varieties to make what they kind of call a Bordeaux-style blend. And these are very unique and very useful for me in particular. I love to have Bordeaux along with steak. So any just kind of roasted meats by themselves. I love to have the juiciness of a Bordeaux to kind of counter the fatness in the protein, etc. with that wine. So.
Okay, so for me, it's dry.
Very dry.
It can smell like blackberry.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I was supposed to have this, I'll actually dilute it with something because it's very dry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's very dry.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I
It's
like
very
to
dry.
mix mine with
Yeah.
maybe Sprite.
The thing
or
with dry
whatever.
wines is, like, again, it's food is when you have a pairing that works. Like when we were thinking about the really spicy suya last night, if I had something sweet, when you taste it, you get it, and it's the most amazing. It's when something gets better, they both get better, kind of thing. But that's kind of the fun of it, you know, exploring and tasting and finding out what you like and finding out what you don't like. There's a lot of wines I don't like. There's a lot of wines I love.
Absolutely. Well, maybe you'll find a great plate of food for that one. So I think with the last few minutes that we have, the world of wine is it's so vast to try to conquer in an hour. But I think what we can do is, a lot of you, I think, have a lot of questions in terms of the way you open your wine, the way you store your wines, or maybe how, you know, anything like that. So I'd love to open up the floor for questions to find out any simple questions we can answer for you.
Any simple, very quick questions that we can have. This gentleman in the front here. Thank you.
The question of hearts relates to the time the wine matures.
Yeah.
Because I was made to understand that the longer a wine takes, the better it is.
Yes.
But I've seen some bottles of wine that have expiry date. So my question is, when I see wines like that, do I toss it away?
Yeah. That's a good question. So not all wines are, thank you. And the very quick answer is not all wines are meant to be aged for a very long time. Some wines, and it really depends. You know, wines like maybe the Bordeaux or the Barolo that we tasted today, these are wines that famously can age for a long period of time. And you really kind of need to talk to the person you're buying wine from. Hopefully you have maybe a local expert that can help you and tell you which wines you should sit on or which wines that you shouldn't sit on. Because, you know, there are just some wines that age gracefully and some that don't. And the very smart answer is just to talk to someone that maybe can help you out, because it's actually a very complex situation.
I would say if your wine has an expiration date,
drink it immediately.
I would throw it away if it's past the expiration date. But you don't see that very often.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, next question. Thank you. Go ahead. Speak louder, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
My question is, what's the best way to store your wine?
The best way to store wine? So, you know, you can do a couple of things. Number one, wine doesn't like sunlight. Wine doesn't like warm temperatures. Okay, so whenever you store wine, you want to store it at a place where the temperature is relatively cool, or where it's going to be can be stored in the absence of sunlight. So the wine wants to be in a dark, cool place. And oftentimes the wines like to be on their side. You don't want them standing up, because the cork will dry out and the cork will spoil or become what we kind of call corked.
So I don't have room and can't afford a wine fridge, so I put, like, where I keep my suits or clothes, my hang-up clothes, I lay them on their side in my closet.
Yeah.
If it's something that I want to age, but then again, there's so many wines that I know that I'm going to drink in the next 6 months, and it won't matter. So it's
a lot of my friends in New York that collect wine that don't have storage, they actually store their wine underneath their couch or underneath their bed, because it's going to be kind of the coolest part of their house and also the darkest place. So it's actually a really great budget-friendly place to store your wine.
As long as you don't put it in the window in direct sunlight, that would be the worst place to put it.
Just make sure no one's jumping on your couch. Yeah. So I don't know if we have more room for any questions.
Unfortunately, we don't. We have to wrap up. I'm really sorry, guys.
Absolutely. But you can always find Miles and I online, on Instagram or by email, and we're always happy to help and answer questions if need be. So please don't hesitate.
Awesome. Thank you so very much,
so much
Femi and Miles. It's been an amazing masterclass. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. I hope you enjoyed the wine. And enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you. Hi, Femi and Miles. Thank you for an amazing masterclass. You really gave us a tour of wines. How did that go for you guys?
It's always amazing to be able to share wine wherever we go. So to be able to do this in Lagos, Nigeria is incredible.
It's great, and I wish we had an entire day. But
I know. I wish we had more time.
And I kept looking at the clock, and I kept saying, "There's not enough time. There's not enough time. There's not enough time." But I'm amazed that the turnout and people showed up and people had questions, and it's humbling, which is good. It's great to see.
It was awesome. There was so much knowledge that you guys were giving us. Like, the hour just went so quickly. It would have been great if we had time for more questions, but it's fine. So obviously, Femi, we know that this is your kind of return back home, so to speak. So in terms of just what you were teaching us and what you were telling us, did you ever envision that you'll be coming back to Nigeria to speak to people about wine?
I never did. So that's what to me is
constantly, to me, just so incredible that I was able to find this passion for wine, and it was able to bring me back to Nigeria. I think it's amazing. So this is incredible.
Thank you so much. And Mars, will you be coming back?
If you have me back, 1,000%.
Yeah,
as long as the suya is spicy, Mars will be back.
As long as the suya is
Tell
spicy.
us more about that suya.
And
Where
the
did you
Fanta
go
is
to get the suya? Where do you know where they took you for the suya?
We went to
shoot.
Glover Court? No. Okay.
Apparently,
'Cause that's the suya spot.
we were told that it was a place that everyone goes to late
It might have
night
been
for
Glover
suya.
Court. That's
it.
That was
that's
it.
the suya
In this
spot.
aluminum foil wrapped up.
Yeah,
It's one of the best
yeah.
things I've eaten in the past 2 years.
Oh, I'm glad that you loved it.
That's
That's
fine.
My
awesome.
also has tried to make suya at home. So
Yeah?
I try to make it all
This
the
is
time,
first
but we
time
can't get
having-
kuli. We have to use. I have to use
How do you know
peanuts.
about
I-
kuli kuli?
because
Him, his mother.
he eats a lot. I make a lot of Nigerian food, so he eats it.
Okay.
His mother.
I
Well,
love
but in
it.
South Carolina, like
Yeah.
I never see that. Like,
love
and it's
that.
but the first time I tasted it, it was
It's
amazing. But then I tasted I bought a bunch of suya powder here. Or
So
spice
you'll be
mix.
taking that back home.
A ton of it. I'm taking
Awesome.
my mom. My mom's gonna love it.
So, in terms of the GT Co. Food and Drink Fair, what are your thoughts? How have you guys spent time outside, like tasting foods and?
Yeah, I think that's been the goal outside of.
Well, that was the benefit of being last, is we got to spend the
day to
entire
spend
day
time, yeah.
exploring,
Yeah.
and then the
Exploring,
food and the community and seeing people excited about it, and that's a big thing for us. Is we like what we do, but seeing other people engaged and asking questions and excited about food and excited about drink and.
Wine is amazing because it takes you places. You know, it takes you to different parts of the world where you can taste and learn the wines, and then it does things where it takes you places like here, where you can share culture and food and wine with amazing audiences. So this is incredible. Yeah.
This is great. I mean, even I was not surprised, but I was encouraged by the amount of questions that you guys had. Like, people genuinely wanted to know more about wines, about what it is that you guys do. So, you know, that's just amazing to know that you have an audience here who are really engaged in what you guys do.
It's amazing, I think Femi and I are very fortunate to be invited and very fortunate that people were interested.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
We followed the Diego Enrico, the mole, and it was amazing and super interesting. And to follow that is hard. And then people were interested, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
You could bounce from that to this, and still have people engaged is
awesome.
a
So,
blessing.
are you guys around for a few more days? Will you be enjoying the fair, or are you straight
We're
back?
gonna try. I think enjoy until maybe tomorrow. And then we'll have to head
awesome.
back, but
Okay.
we'll hopefully be back. Soon.
We're
Love
only
to have you back.
This is a brief trip because next time we want to spend much more time here if we're invited back.
We needed Miles to wet his beak. So.
Exactly.
just taste a bit.
Well, like I said, he's spoken about it for years
So,
and
yeah,
years and years and
we'll
years,
come
and to land and to experience it is so different than anything you could ever be told. So.
That is so awesome. I mean, we have completely loved having Femi and Miles here at the GT Co. Food and Drink Fair, and we will be sure to hopefully see them next year as well. So thank you guys for tuning
Cheers.
in.